Greetings, my name is Dr. Annette Jones, and I thank you for joining me today for the presentation of Follow the Blue Brick Road. We will be discussing the National Blue Ribbon process and the best practices. Before we dive into the National Blue Ribbon process, I would like to share my background with you. I have worked in Catholic education for my entire career as an educational consultant, Assistant Director for School Leadership at the National Catholic Educational Association, and Principal in 3 Catholic dioceses, as well as an Assistant Principal and Teacher. I have led 2 schools in Indiana, St. Louis de Montfort in 2013 and Immaculate Heart of Mary in 2005, to the coveted National Blue Ribbon Award. After our school's recognition, my involvement in the National Blue Ribbon program continued, as I have served on the National Blue Ribbon Selection Committee for non-public schools for 3 years and have presented for 5 consecutive years at the National Blue Ribbon program in Washington, D.C. My passion lies with developing teacher leadership capacity in the schools, and it is my pleasure to share National Blue Ribbon suggestions and ideas with you. During this presentation, we will cover an overview of the National Blue Ribbon Award, the role of the Council of American Private Education, or CAPE, the general timeline of the National Blue Ribbon process, tips for the application process, including the essays, suggestions about the program in Washington, D.C., and, most importantly, ideas for celebrating the National Blue Ribbon Award. The National Blue Ribbon Award is an exercise in leadership and perseverance. This is the official National Blue Ribbon logo that schools use once they receive the award. The year of the award is included on the seal. Just to share my journey with you, Immaculate Heart of Mary School in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. In 2004, we applied, but yet we were not selected. In 2005, we achieved the National Blue Ribbon School. That was 5 years from the time I started. St. Louis de Montfort Catholic School in the Diocese of Lafayette. In 2011, we applied and we were not selected. In 2012, we did not qualify. We missed the assessment requirements by 1% in one grade and 2% in another grade. In 2013, we achieved the National Blue Ribbon Award, again after 5 years of leading the school. My message is this: apply and apply again. The National Blue Ribbon Award is completely worth the effort. Think of the benefits for your school community and the stakeholders. Continue to build your school's resume. What is unique and special about your school? What are your faculty and staff members' accomplishments? So what is the National Blue Ribbon Award? The United States Department of Education's National Blue Ribbon Award began in 1982 with over 7,200 schools across the country which have been presented with this coveted award. Only 50 non-public schools are awarded annually throughout the country. This award honors America's most successful schools. The National Blue Ribbon logo and flag represent a trademark of excellence and a symbol of quality, exemplary teaching, and learning. The bottom line, the National Blue Ribbon Award is the highest level of achievement for schools in the United States. So my suggestion is to go for it. As far as the National Blue Ribbon selection criteria, basically, there are 2 ways to qualify for the National Blue Ribbon Award. The first way is exemplary high-performing schools. High-performing means that achievement of the school's students in the most recent year tested, the school is placed in the top 15% in the nation in reading or language arts and in math as measured by a nationally normed test, or the top 15% in the state as measured by a state test. Students who have a disadvantaged background show marked improvement. This section is only for public schools, though. Non-public schools only qualify for the National Blue Ribbon Award under the exemplary performing schools. Any questions about qualifying for the National Blue Ribbon Award, such as the testing and assessments, should be directed to CAPE. Why apply for the National Blue Ribbon Award? The school community will receive local and national recognition. There's tremendous marketing point for retaining current families and attracting prospective families. You'll be honored at the recognition ceremony and attend a National Blue Ribbon program, which is 2 days in length and in the fall in Washington, D.C. Your school will receive a National Blue Ribbon plaque and flag, and the National Blue Ribbon logo. We will have permission to use this logo on letterhead, marketing materials, and clothing. You will receive national and local media attention, and your application will be posted on the U.S. Department of Education website. Let's talk about CAPE's leadership. CAPE stands for the Council of American Private Education. CAPE was selected by the United States Department of Education to facilitate the National Blue Ribbon process for non-public schools. CAPE collaborates often with the United States Department of Education concerning the National Blue Ribbon process, selection, and ceremony. CAPE oversees the non-public selection committee. Generally, 150 to 300 applications from non-public schools are received annually. Only 50 schools are recommended by the selection committee. CAPE has ongoing communication with the selected and non-selected non-public schools. And also, CAPE assists with the National Blue Ribbon program and attends the National Blue Ribbon ceremony in Washington, D.C. You can expect much interaction with CAPE. As an applying school, you will make sure that you are following the timeline established by CAPE, which is different than the timeline for public schools on the U.S. Department of Education's website. For awareness, I recommend reading the National Blue Ribbon information on the U.S. Department of Education's website. Communicate with CAPE should you have any questions about the required test scores. Collaborate with your staff to complete the application. And apply again. Go for it. Don't worry about hearing no. There are lots of fantastic applications. Just try again. Again, perseverance is the key. For administrators, CAPE's website and the United States Department of Education's website contain important information. Read CAPE's website and application very carefully. Generally, CAPE receives many more applications than they are able to submit to the United States Department of Education, as only 50 applications are selected. Schools are eliminated because of non-compliance with detailed technical requirements. For example, like not including the last 4 digits of a zip code. This is true. To avoid this unfortunate outcome, read the requirements closely and proofread. The frequently asked questions section of CAPE's website is updated as necessary. It provides clarification regarding the rules of the program, responds to evolving questions, and also the non-public school applications are evaluated and processed according to the guidance, standards, procedures, and timeline established on CAPE's website. Please note that the application procedures for non-public schools differ somewhat from the procedures for public schools. Again, please read everything carefully. Let's talk about the timeline for the National Blue Ribbon. In September, schools need to register for the application process, even if you're not certain if your school has qualified by test scores yet. Don't miss this important deadline. In October, download the application, even the previous year's questions, and start answering these questions. These questions tend to be very similar from year to year. In November, you will receive the school code and the keyword. January, applications are due to CAPE. You must follow the directions and it must arrive on time, meaning a week early. Don't take any chances with the possible inclement weather in mail delivery. In February, 50 selected schools will be notified if updates are needed to their applications. Schools that are not selected will be notified and given feedback on their application. The timeline continues in March. Selected schools complete revisions on their application, and in April, final applications are submitted to the U.S. Department of Education. In September, the Secretary of Education announces the National Blue Ribbon Schools. November, the National Blue Ribbon Ceremony and Program is held in Washington, D.C. November through the end of the year should be a time to celebrate with your school community. Let's talk about application tips. The application is completed online on a secure portal. You will need to have your school ID and password in order to access this online application. The narrative responses must be succinct and no attachments, tables, charts, graphs, or photos. Note the detailed directions in the multi-part questions and the word counts. Multiple people should proofread this application. Keep in mind that the National Blue Ribbon Selection Committee is looking for truly exceptional model schools, not just strong or good schools. Now is the time to toot your horn. So as you know, there are multiple essays on the National Blue Ribbon application. Let's review some of the tips. The most important essay is Part 3, the summary. Please contact me if you need assistance, as this essay must be a dynamic representation of your school. What makes your school special and stand out from these other applications? Often I'm asked, how do we complete this document? Principals could write the entire application, but I don't recommend this approach. A small team could write this document. That approach is okay, but it lacks the school-wide perspective. I believe that the key is to collaborate with the staff. My favorite method is to gather the information from the entire staff and a small team of 2 to 3 teachers with the principal write the application. Again, please reach out to me if you would like specific guidance with organizing this application process. Remember to use action verbs. Proofread for grammar and content. Avoid duplicate examples in the essay questions, and note that all pages and essays are reviewed during the selection process. As I mentioned, November is the time to celebrate in Washington, D.C. It is a 2-day event which includes a program and a ceremony. The principal attends with 1 guest. Consider planning an extra day or 2 in the nation's capital to visit state representatives and tour the amazing historical sites. Upon your return to school, think blue. Plan in your school budget as you begin your application process, such as your travel to DC and the special events for the school community. Consider planning an extra day of school in the school calendar so a quote-unquote free day can be given to the students and families. Students enjoy the blue celebration. Consider National Blue Ribbon pens, pencils, ice cream, a pep rally, t-shirts designed by the staff and students. Staff, consider a National Blue Ribbon staff jackets, lapel pins, or a special luncheon. For your families, enjoy a National Blue Ribbon night with these families. Music, presentations, a National Blue Ribbon cake, and a great opportunity to unveil the plaque and the flag. Remember to invite special community members as well. Celebrate with your superintendent and the NCEA staff. Celebrate with family and with your community. Thank you for attending my session. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about the National Blue Ribbon process or best practices. I wish you the very best on your journey to the National Blue Ribbon Award.